The book starts with Hannah complaining about waiting room chairs for 3 pages. Why is the color so ugly? Why are they so uncomfortable? Why bother bolting them to the floor if no one's ever gonna steal them? And average sized chairs? Haha, there's no such thing as an average sized body. Did I just walk into a bad stand up comedy routine? Argofont Book Review, Argofont Book Review. This review is commissioned through Patreon. Lake Eden is having a town carnival slash rodeo this week. Hannah is extremely interested in getting a deep-fried candy bar, but every time she does, she's interrupted by someone else. She can't eat in front of her mother and Andrea, who are already mean enough about Hannah being overweight. If they saw her eating deep-fried candy, they'd never let it go. They know she owns a bakery, right? Hannah's love of fatty foods should not be a surprise to them. Either way, her relatives are total jerks. Hannah also can't eat around her boyfriends because she's too insecure. I don't know why she's insecure about her looks when she has 3 boyfriends that are madly in love with her. Also, she's so attractive that Norman's photograph of her won a blue ribbon. Not to be outdone, Mike bought the photo for $500 and is hanging it on his wall. That should do wonders for Hannah's self-esteem. Hannah is one of the carnival's bakery judges, along with home ec teacher Pam Baxter and her classroom assistant, Willa Sundquist. They rate food based on a number of categories. Presentation is how food looks, while appearance is how food looks after it's been cut. So if your cookie has too many crumbs, it is points off. That is so nitpicky, I am sure I would get last place in this baking contest. On a side note, I made the popovers recipe from this book. The eggs did not blend at all, and the food fused to the baking cups so you could not take it out of the tray without prying it loose with a sharp knife. It was such a humongous mess that I had to run the pan through the dishwasher twice. So, yeah, the recipes are great, but they're maybe a bit too advanced for beginning bakers like me. Willa is running the beauty pageant. She explains the pageant isn't sexist. It's mostly about assessing the girls' characters. They check to see who's most responsible and reliable, and who doesn't do things like swear and upset other people. While that is great, the pageant still has multiple nights of forcing teenagers to parade on stage wearing revealing clothing. I believe that is the sexist part people were worried about. I suppose the pageant doesn't matter. We all know Hannah's sister Michelle is going to win. Michelle has a bigger role than usual in this book, as she stays in Hannah's apartment. In the mandatory cat subplot, Moish stops eating food. He spends all his time looking out the window at the neighbors. Hannah and friends worry constantly about him and they take him to the vet. The end reveals the neighbors got a new cat. That's why Moish was so upset. Norman adopts the cat, so if Hannah dumps Norman, he can be a crazy old cat man. Willa freaks out when she sees a cowboy. Hannah becomes best friends with Fried Candy Lady, and there are multiple chapters of food judging. Mother continues her secret computer project from last book. She's always writing something and constantly using Regency romance phrases. None of the characters are smart enough to draw the obvious conclusion that Mother is writing a Regency romance. Mother is running a dunking booth to promote her store. She's roped a local baseball pitcher into helping. Hannah spends the book dreading the fact that she's going to get soaked. I don't know why she can't stand up for herself and tell Mom, "No, I don't want to do your dunking booth. You tricked me into volunteering, which is unfair, so now I'm canceling." In the end, Hannah does some fast talking, so Mother ends up dunking the baseball player, then they both get the publicity they crave. Willa gets an expensive new hairdo and outfit in order to impress a man. Before she can explain more, they're distracted by food judging. Food is always the most important thing. Hannah forgets something at Mom's booth, which is her excuse for being there after hours. She wanders around in the dark when she hears Willa being murdered. Hannah is terrified when she sees the shadowy culprit, and her shock is so extreme she has trouble moving for hours afterwards. This entire section was surprisingly intense, to the point where I wondered if it was done by a ghostwriter named Edgar Allan Poe. Hannah has found over a dozen corpses at this point, and this is really intense compared to the other death scenes. None of them shook her up as badly as this death of a relative stranger. The main suspect is Tasha, a blonde girl who was kicked out of the beauty pageant. Mike and Norman casually discuss the murder while eating the popovers that I couldn't cook. Hannah is furious with them. How dare they call Willa a victim? She was a human being! Again, this was not something that bothered her at all in previous murder mysteries. Hannah remains upset with Mike until she overhears him talking with another police officer. Mike says he purposely says the victim instead of someone's name to prevent his feelings from getting in the way of the investigation. Whenever he needs a release from bottling up his emotions all day long, he stares at Hannah's gorgeous picture. It's actually kind of romantic of him. Hannah's friends bug her to get a cell phone, but there's little chance of that happening, as she hasn't even unpacked the computer she was forced to get in the previous book. Hannah is amazed to learn phones can take pictures now, and she's confused how you hang up on a phone. Remember, Hannah is 30. She's acting more like she's 60. Norman sets her up with a phone for the end-of-book culprit capture. She visits his house, which has a built-in staircase just for her cat. It's sweet, but it also makes him look kinda desperate to marry Hannah. There is more food judging. Lisa agrees to be a last-minute replacement for the victim in exchange for Hannah doing a magic trick. Hannah has to hide in a casket while the magician sticks swords inside. Hannah scours her closet for something appropriate to wear. She decides to donate most of her old clothes to charity. Meanwhile, with the actual mystery, Michelle locates their only suspect, Tasha. Tasha and her brothers hang out at a local dive bar. Michelle wears a trashy outfit in order to fit in. Hannah, Norman, and Andrea all rush to the bar to save Michelle from scandal, and they learn Tasha's family is innocent. The mystery starts for real at this point when they make a list of suspects. Fake-out suspect 1 is a home ec student who never appears in the book. Fake-out suspect number 2 is Willa's ex-boyfriend, who also never appears. Suspect number 3 does appear, although she's only in the book for less than 5 pages. She is a woman who lost the baking competition. Of course Hannah thinks that's a good enough reason to kill someone. She is cleared when it's revealed she didn't bake the food in question. Hannah's friends buy her a new outfit for the magic show, and uh-oh, they accidentally picked the ugly clothing she donated to charity. Hannah complains quite a bit how every color clashes with her red hair except for green. So why doesn't she wear green all the time? Easy solution. She wears a purple dress for the magic trick, and she's terrified that the picture of it will be in the newspaper. She's incredibly relieved when Norman uses his photo editing software to change her dress color. I am shocked she didn't ask him to make her look skinnier. Mom discovers the victim was married recently, and a random kid saw the victim with a cowboy boyfriend shortly before the murder. This is information they should tell the police, but they don't. Hannah's distracted by cowboy gossip. It looks like a cowboy named Tucker purposely tried to injure a rodeo clown named Curly. I hate to say it, but Hannah puts way more effort into the cowboy gossip than the actual mystery. She comes up with a multi-step plan, complete with distractions, in order to enter the hospital and talk to the cowboys. Tucker ends up being an overconfident jerk, but he doesn't confess to hurting Curly or knowing the victim. Mike confirms the victim was married to a man named Jess. They broke up after they were both imprisoned for robbing a convenience store. He was released about 2 years ago. Hannah and Norman go into the school to check the victim's desk. He worries for her safety. She feels pretty good about the fact he wants to protect her. Even though she normally whines, she doesn't need protection. I don't know why she thinks she can take care of herself when basically every book ends with somebody else coming to save her. In the victim's desk, they find her wedding photo. It's been cut in half, so they don't know what the groom looks like. I wonder why they don't think to look him up online. Actually, didn't Mike see his mugshot? I guess he didn't. Huh. Next time, Mike should look at a picture of the victim's criminal former husband who has good motive to kill her. The culprit chases them on the way home from school. Norman manages to lose the culprit because he spent 2 years as a race car driver. I'm not joking, the mild-mannered dentist is secretly a race car driver. That came out of nowhere. Tucker keeps Hannah at the carnival after hours and starts a casual conversation about the murder. This should be raising huge red flags. Hannah eventually realizes Tucker is the culprit. He is Willa's criminal husband, who killed her because she wouldn't sign a divorce agreement. Hannah tries running away and hiding in the tilt-a-whirl. When that doesn't work, she buys herself time by getting Tucker to talk. He knows she's trying to trick him, and 3 times he tells her to stop, but then he keeps talking. Tucker, if you know she is tricking you into talking, stop talking! Tucker wastes so much time talking that Mike is able to get Hannah's message and arrive. He and Tucker get into a big fight, and she throws her cell phone at Tucker's head. It turns out cell phones are good for something after all. Ha ha ha. I mentioned Hannah is 30, right? 30-year-olds normally don't joke that phones are only good for throwing and nothing else. Everyone has a big celebration. Hannah wears fancy earrings. It's casually mentioned that the earrings are one of the weekly presents she gets from her third boyfriend, Ross Barton. Wow, Ross sure is dropping a lot of money on a woman he never sees or talks to. The end. Post-book follow-up. Along with the first book, this one is popular for series newcomers. That is, people who are new to the series decide to start reading with this one. I don't know why this one in particular. Newcomers seem to agree that the recipes are great and the mystery is terrible. It's over 100 pages before the murder occurs, and it takes another 80 pages before Hannah starts investigating. You could argue the murder investigation doesn't really start until 60 pages before the end. It was easy to guess the culprit's identity because the book puts so much focus on this cowboy character who comes out of nowhere. It was very unsubtle setting up for the ending. I'm hoping the next book has the murder occur in the first 3 chapters, because it's starting to feel like the author has no interest in writing murder mysteries anymore. The focus is definitely on the food and the characters, which is fine. They're good characters who do interesting things. I just wonder why the murder mystery disappeared. The book briefly references a game for Hannah's softball team. She bought uniforms for them 2 books ago. We skipped over their entire season for no apparent reason. I wonder if the team was originally going to appear at one point. As usual, Hannah nitpicks on people's grammar, like the people who say burglary instead of robbery. Norman says dead end instead of cul-de-sac. Twice, Hannah disparages the phrase me neither. I don't know what's wrong with that. There's a minor joke section where Hannah and Norman use Minnesota-specific phrases, like, do you want to come over after? And, you can come with. That part confused me, because I hear people say those things all the time. How are they Minnesota-only sayings? On the night of the murder, someone breaks into the carnival offices and steals $10,000 cash. Hannah ignores this crime for the most part. It ends up being an irrelevant red herring. I don't know why it was included only to be ignored. That could have been an interesting storyline. Overall, I thought the book was okay. It's not as good as previous ones. We've seen town festivals before, and we've seen better mysteries, certainly more complex mysteries. There was a lot of Norman in this book, and that made me enjoy it more than I otherwise would have because I like Norman. I am giving this book 1 point less than the average score, as it's slightly below average. I give Hannah Swensen number 9, Key Lime Pie Murder, a 4 out of 10.